It's no secret that we live in a world where we're constantly hit with endless streams of information. It's easy to get caught up in a never-ending cycle of social media and online news without giving too much thought to what we're taking in. Have you ever stopped to think about the damage of this activity? What happens when you fill a glass of water past its limit? What about the content you're watching? How does that overfilling manifest in our minds? With this, there are three big problems that come to mind. The first is a lack of creativity. When we're constantly being bombarded with other people's opinions, we find it difficult to come up with original ideas and thoughts of our own. The brain gets so used to consuming ideas that we lose the ability to think for ourselves. The second is reduced productivity. It's really too easy to get caught up in the endless scroll of social media and finding never-ending shows that keep popping up on Netflix. But if we're being real, we need to understand that most of the content that we watch is pretty much meaningless. How much of this information that we're ingesting do we actually retain and find useful? The brain can only hold information for 3 minutes. It's forgotten if it's not written down, taught, or used directly. The third one is the effect on your mental health. When we spend a good amount of time on social media, we often find ourselves comparing ourselves to the curated versions of other people's lives, which results in us feeling shitty about our own. But what we don't realize sometimes is that this is only a tiny slice of the pie. It doesn't paint the entire picture. This is something that I've been guilty of as well. Consuming media has been the bane of my existence for as long as I can remember. I grew up with video games, the beginning of social media, and when I was a teenager, I had a porn addiction. It wasn't until recently that I got in control of my impulses and pleasure seeking through a screen. This digital age has become a sort of battleground for the modern mind. It's basically a spiritual warfare to keep you and I distracted. This can end up resulting in a lifelong mediocrity and reliance on these external sources for our health, wealth, and happiness. If this feeling of overstimulation and internal conflict sounds familiar, I have 3 ways to use content consumption productively. Treat your screen time like a big event. Imagine your nephew's birthday is coming up. For the most part, you have a spot on your calendar scheduled for that event. Schedule your content consumption each and every day. Set limits on it and stick to that schedule. You may have heard this a million times before, but hear me out. Taking breaks from the screen is going to give our minds a chance to recharge. Another option for you can be doing a social media detox. I talk more about how to do this in a video that I made before. However, if you're like me and you're trying to use social media for expressing your thoughts and starting a business, then this option may not be for you. But if this is the case, if you're intentional about your work, then you need to be intentional about your attention. As a personal example, I usually schedule my mindless consumption at around 6 p.m. This is when my energy is low and I've gotten all my bigger priorities done throughout the day. I'll usually take about 30 or 60 minutes to scroll through social media without really giving it much thought, but usually I'm too tired to scroll for that long. That way I'm not completely cutting it off, but I'm also getting a fix that's more intentional and planned out in my day. So you might find that you're eventually getting tired of entertainment media, watching a bunch of memes, degeneracy reels, and dance talk, or what have you, and maybe these types of videos are too stimulating. This next step makes consumption a bit more intentional. Consider content as mind food. Make sure you're consuming things that are educational. Finding a passion project that you've been wanting to do for a long time is a great alternative to scrolling social media. You get that dopamine craving without feeling the burnout and sense of emptiness inside. This can be a great way to add value to your life simultaneously while getting your consumption fix. The biggest benefit to date that I've seen was back in 2013 when I started my fitness journey. I was able to transform my physique from being 155 pounds at 5'11", being skinny fat and weak, to gaining nearly 30 pounds of muscle and losing body fat at the same time. I used YouTube as a form of education to teach myself about weight training principles for 3 years to build that physique transformation. The knowledge I gained here was far deeper and more practical than my 4-year kinesiology degree. This shows you the power of the internet and what you can achieve with intentional research. So I encourage you to engage in content that is informative, educational, or otherwise useful rather than purely entertainment content. I like places like YouTube, Medium, and what I call value Twitter. Having the desire for self-improvement and taking this approach to consumption can skyrocket your potential. So in this final tip, this is going to be, in my opinion, the most crucial route that you can take. And this is also how I got over my instant gratification. The most life-changing step, in my opinion, is to create your own content. This can be as simple as writing a blog post, creating a piece of art, or just sharing your thoughts and perspectives on the internet. This helps with developing our creativity and productivity because you're actually implementing the things that you're learning. This can give you a sense of accomplishment. It can also inspire other people to do the same, and you can also make some extra money doing it. So the digital age isn't really just doom and gloom. It just depends on how you approach it. Making money online is now easier than ever. I've heard stories of people going from rags to riches on YouTube and starting businesses like dropshipping, freelance web design, or social media marketing agencies. People like Iman Ghatzi, Hamza, and OGs like Elliot Hulse have been inspiring role models in the game of solopreneurship. They've all started by documenting their journey online. And you might be thinking maybe they just got lucky or they inherited money, but that's not true at all. All of these individuals came from debt, poor families, or at some point at the bottom in life, just like you and I. So see this as a possibility and look at these stories as inspiration and not an excuse. Recently, I stumbled upon an unexpected creator that blew my mind. You may have heard of him or seen his 30-minute videos that you might have skipped over because they were too long. His name is Dan Koe, and this was the video that pushed me over the edge.
It's called the domain of mastery. So what you do is you pick 3 interests. 1 that makes money, which is almost any of them. That's just your priority interest. Interest 2 excites you, and interest 3 is development based. So like psychology, self-improvement, self-development, metaphysics, philosophy, something that helps you understand just the progression pattern.
I had been contemplating starting a YouTube channel for years, only to quit because of the long-term commitment. I listened to Dan's video during a workout, and a lot of points clicked for me that made me pause and rewind the video. Words like productize yourself, one-person business, work less, earn more, monetize your interests. These words lit up my brain like the neighborhood Christmas lights. This was really the push I needed to get out of my head and get started with content creation. Sometimes all we need is a little push to get us over the procrastination of starting on the goals that we've set out for ourselves. And this doesn't have to take up a whole lot of your day. You can replace the 1 to 2 hours that you roll on social media with working on something that you're passionate about. So to wrap this up, we talked about how over-consuming content can be a real productivity killer. It can plummet our creativity, and it can also drain our small willpower reserves and damage our mental health. But we learned that by scheduling blocks for screen time, being selective and intentional about what we consume, and documenting our learnings online, that we can avoid most of the pitfalls of overconsumption and focus on what truly matters to us. You should reach out and get some accountability on this journey. Find like-minded individuals that will help you to generate potential ideas, and find a group of other dedicated creators that can push you along and help you on your journey to consume less and more productively. So let's stop letting the cycle of never-ending consumption control us and start making some positive changes. If you found this video helpful and want to learn more about striking a healthy balance through self-improvement and mindful living, consider subscribing to the channel. I also have a newsletter that you can subscribe for down below. It's a small change that can make a big difference in your life. Comment down below what you've learned from this video, and if you want to create your own content, let me know what your first project's going to be. See you in the next video.